Well, my name is Khalid Elgibali, and I'm the Division President for Middle East and North Africa for Mastercard. The banking industry and the financial markets, I think on the heels of the 2008-2009 crisis and what they've done in terms of the bounce back since then, has really shown a lot of resilience. I think a lot of futuristic vision in terms of how they've reformed. In fact, that is still continuing as we speak. We're seeing a spate of consolidations now, most recently with a large consolidation in Abu Dhabi and several others planned. And I think that is all with the objective of ensuring that the financial sector, represented by the financial sector players, banks and others, is quite resilient and is also able to support the grandiose visions of the UAE and more generally and Dubai specifically. I think the single biggest challenge, but at the same time, as I'm sure we all know, any challenge is only an opportunity in disguise, frankly. But the single biggest challenge, and I'll turn it quickly into how it is an opportunity, is to say probably the traditional means of doing business that we have all enjoyed over the last 10, 15, 20, sometimes even 50 years are not going to be the same over the next 5 or 10 years. And I know that's stating the obvious, but I think it's important to recognize that, and more importantly than recognize it, it's important to ensure that the players have an action plan against it so that they don't go obsolete, right? So one of the things I alluded to before is the quickly changing and evolving customer behavior. I was in a seminar recently, a 2-day workshop, and there was one of these technologist futurists speaking at it. And he was saying, again, something which you would think that everybody realizes, that the baseline of each of the generations coming in now is changing at an unprecedented pace. What do I mean by baseline? My sons are 10 and 8 years old. If you ask them today, or if you show them a telephone with this dial ring thing, they won't recognize it as a telephone, because to them a telephone is a touchpad. Not even a button press pad, a touchpad, right? So their baseline is very different from their 2 or 3 previous generations. Computer used to be mainframes, and they became desktops, and they became laptops, and they became iPads, and actually they are now handheld because your mobile is a computer. Now, what that has driven is the fact that a current generation of either Gen Ys or millennials, and the names continue obviously evolving as we get newer generations with newer baselines coming into the stream. The generations today, many generations of young adults who are coming into the labor force as we speak, are behaving very differently. So if you are, for example, looking at facilitating payments to these generations through, let's say, cards, yes, they'll accept that, they'll do it, but their expectation is very different. Their expectation that they should be able to do everything they want to do, including payments, including their banking and financial transactions, on their phone. In this part of the world specifically, compared to maybe, let's say, Europe, based in innovation research and also mobile readiness index that we track, 70% of the population is willing to and wanting to actually carry out their transactions, financial transactions, banking transfers, etc., inquiry, servicing, as well as payments, 70% on the phone compared to 38% in some of the more developed countries like Europe, or regions like Europe. And that's driven not just by that quickly evolving, or those quickly evolving and changing habits, which I mentioned and referred to are changing at an unprecedented pace, the growth of the Gen Ys and the millennials, but also the proliferation of technology. Mobile phones, smartphones, which enable you to do all of the above in terms of penetration now in this part of the world, is highest in the world. It's over 60% today, the UAE. And the penetration of mobile telephony per se, including feature phones, in many of our countries at 120%, if not higher. So that just tells you that, yes, while it is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity for those who are willing to participate actively and create the solutions that may not be traditional solutions, right? solutions, so for example, when we talk about chatbots today, that's a technology-based solution that ensures that the customer maintains a one-on-one relationship with their service provider. But that is almost mass customization based on what we call advanced predictive technologies that then can almost expect what questions are going to come from customers with these kind of features. And when I say features, they're both demographic and psychographic, and therefore have a set of standard responses that go back to the customers, and that almost takes you into the realm of artificial intelligence, right? But a lot of these solutions are being built as we speak. We are building many of these solutions ourselves as we speak. But that's, I think, a challenge, as well as an opportunity for those who recognize it and those who are willing to actually participate in this new ecosystem that is being developed around us. It's extremely collaborative. I mean, look, most organizations will say, teamwork is important, etc., and the way we kind of interface and engage. That is actually the ethos of Mastercard. Extremely collaborative, we're very lean. I think globally there are around 12,000 employees. For us to be a multi-billion-dollar company with that and sustainably deliver success, that truly is done through the key ethos that we have a platform, that it is a team sport. It is truly about collaboration. So we don't rely, and that's what I would say to any employee, we don't rely on that once a month meeting or review or presentation or deck. That alignment and that creation and innovation and inquisitiveness and really entrepreneurial creativity happens daily in corridors, in alignment, in discussions, in chats, over coffees, right? So you'll find that it's very seamless, the way we interact with each other. Yeah, there is a set of meetings, of course, there is a set of forums, there is a set of committees. I mean, any organization has that. But much more happens outside of those. So I think if there's one piece of advice I would give to anybody joining Mastercard is say, build on that strength and talk to people, discuss, ask questions, be inquisitive. That's part of the DNA of that organization. Don't assume something can't be done, right? Because we're a technology company. You can do anything with technology. We'll end up creating a solution. How long it takes, how much it costs is a different consideration. And as business people, we'll obviously take those into account when we're bringing anything like that to market. But do not assume, don't be straitjacketed by traditional what can be done and what cannot be done. If it is a great idea, if it's based on customer insights, if it's a clearly articulated challenge that can be turned into a real opportunity to digitize cash, to move people, customers into that space, right? Because that's becoming a requirement, a need of many of the generations, as I said earlier, they're coming to the labor force, then, the sky's the limit. Have the conversations, because a lot gets done having the informal conversations and alignment. And I think that's why you'll find it's not a very hierarchical organization. There can be people at a very high degree of level of seniority, but you wouldn't even realize that they're at that level of seniority. They're very approachable because they actually practice the ethos of the company, right? So that's the single biggest advice I would give. Talk, socialize, talk widely. Don't wait for those kind of monthly meetings or committees or gatherings, right? That's how the best ideas come about. Mistaking experience or length of experience for quality of judgment. Most leaders, by definition, have probably served quite a long period of time working in many organizations or a single organization. We see, I think, in Mastercard definitely that because we try to foster and create a culture of inclusiveness, that many of the great ideas, the exciting ideas and exciting solutions don't come top down, but actually originate bottoms up. So I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see is sometimes when leaders assume that because of their length of years and the fact that they've seen a lot, they usually say, well, I've been there, done it. And I think that approach is almost trying to drive forward, but by looking in your rear view mirror. Because what are you saying? You're saying, I've been there, done it. So you're looking in your rear view and saying, yeah, I've been there. Yeah, but where you're going is very different from where you've just been. It's actually totally different from where you've just been. And in fact, you don't even know if the road is going to be paved or not. You don't know if your car is going to be flying or it's going to be self-driving or not. So where you've been probably has very little relevance to where you are going, right? So don't mistake your length of experience and seasoning for great judgment in terms of what the future holds, right? And I think the solution to that is to be as inclusive as you possibly can. And again, practicing that ethos I was referring to earlier, to say you as a senior leader have to be also in tune, not just with your customers out there, but also with your staff. And with everything that's happening around you in government circles, in the regulatory scheme, all of these work together, right? And that's why a lot of the time our success is also not just defined by what we do, but also defined by the excellence of our choice in partners in each of the markets, whether they're technology partners or whether they're developing a user interface for us or for our customers, whether they're government partners or regulators, right, and how we manage those relationships. So inclusiveness is not just limited to what we do internally, but also more broadly. So I believe that's probably the biggest mistake that leaders do.